I think it's going to have a major impact on the profession, as it will with all of our lives. I'm going to predict by 2030, the profession will not be doing bookkeeping anymore, will not be preparing tax returns. It's now foreseeable that we will go onto Netflix and design our own movies through natural language prompt. We've had a huge development in large language models, tools like ChatGPT.
Artificial intelligence, it's overhyped. It's not going to have much of an impact on the accounting profession in the foreseeable future. Mark Wickersham, do you have a view on that?
I think it's going to have a major impact on the profession, as it will with all of our lives. And that's just because of the exponential growth of what's happening right now with AI in the world. It's extraordinary what's happening just in the first few months of 2024 alone.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of change, Mark, but you and I talk to accountants a lot. You are an accountant. Surely they're at the back end of the queue when it comes to artificial intelligence. There are so many very adaptable, agile sectors and industries that are moving fast with this, but it's not really changing accounting, is it?
I think it's going to change a lot of things in accounting. In fact, I'm going to predict, and here's my controversial prediction, Rob, that by 2030, which is coming around fairly fast, the profession will not be doing bookkeeping anymore, will not be preparing tax returns. And I think that's actually a fairly conservative prediction, because I think it's actually going to be much, much faster than 2030 because of the way that things are moving at the moment.
So what you've just described there is the bread and butter, the backbone of the accounting offering. That's compliance, isn't it? Are you saying compliance is going to be killed by artificial intelligence?
Yes. I will give a caveat in a bit, but let me just explain why that is the case. Because people do say, when I say that, people tell me in the profession that I'm crazy, because they say, just look at the likes of Intuit, QBO, and it can't get bank feeds correct. How can it possibly start to replace us? Well, you only have to look at what's happening in the world right now. So let's just move away from the accounting profession for a minute and just think about it in 2024. We've had a huge development in large language models. That's tools like ChatGPT, with the development of multimodal. But we've also seen huge development in image generation. Earlier on this year in 2014, OpenAI hinted at what was coming out with Sora, with video generation, which could replace the entire movie industry. It's now foreseeable that we will go onto Netflix and design our own movies through natural language prompt. If we look at music generation, we've seen this year already how Sonar and Udio have come out, and they can just create songs for you. You just choose the instruments you want it to play and the genre and so on. But even more important than that, I guess, is things like robotics. If we look at what's happening in the world of robotics, in fact, just in the last few days, I came across Starbucks working with a company, and they are developing robots that will make coffee in Starbucks, but also they'll be able to serve coffee around, and the robots move around office buildings to deliver coffee to your desk. And we are seeing a huge change in things like wearables, like the Rabbit, or like the glasses, and the ones that amaze me are the Meta Ray-Bans. I was watching a demo just the other day, and I live in Portugal. And so it's now, the technology is here now where you can have these wearable sunglasses, and someone in Portuguese can be speaking at you, and it's listening to it, and it's converting that into English, and it's appearing on your glasses. So you can see in real time what people are saying. So the days of the Hitchhiker's Galaxy, Guide to the Galaxy, and the Babel fish to instantly translate, that's here now. We are seeing in the world of education, that's going to be completely changed as a result of what's happening in the Khan Academy. I think the thing that got me the most was what happened a few months back with Elon Musk's Neuralink. They had their first Neuralink embedded in somebody's brain. And this was a 27-year-old who was paralyzed from a diving accident from the neck downwards. And the video showed him playing chess on the computer. He wasn't using a mouse because he was paralyzed. He was using his brain to control the computer. This stuff's coming. And so when people say to me, it's not possible that AI system can automate bookkeeping and tax return preparations. Well, if it can do those other extraordinary things in the world right now, then surely bookkeeping, which is very much rules-based, that's easy to do in comparison. In fact, you only then have to look at what Intuit are doing right now with their Intuit Assist. They've been on this project for 5 years now, developing their AI. And I can promise you, in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see extraordinary changes in what companies like Intuit are bringing to the table in the world of AI.
Well, you've certainly given us a taste of what is happening out there. And the accounting profession, bookkeeping profession, they're probably looking at that and thinking, well, that's happening elsewhere, and what's robotics got to do with us? So talk to us a little bit about what significant changes you've seen in the accounting profession in the last couple of years related to AI and ChatGPT.
In the profession itself, we've not seen a huge amount of change yet. And I think that's why the profession is fairly complacent, thinking, well, things aren't going to change. We know, Rob, that as you said, I'm an accountant. I've been in the profession since 1988, and we are not the fastest industry to make changes and move. We are quite slow. And I think also, unfortunately, we tend to be an aging profession. The average age of partners is pretty high, and so we are slow to change. But this is going to creep up on firms that aren't ready for it. This change is coming. And we have to prepare for that in the profession. We have to get ready for that. We have to figure out what's our strategy regarding AI. What are we going to do different? AI is not new, by the way, Rob, as you know. AI has been around for 70 years. This is not something that's new. It's just the fact that it's going through this extraordinary exponential growth right now. And it's actually it's around us all the time at the moment. It's just very often we take it for granted. We don't always notice what's going on. It's in our cars right now. You get things like you start to accidentally drift into the next lane and it starts getting this haptic feedback on your steering wheel and so on. We have so much AI. If you have a smartphone like Apple, that's full of AI. And so it's there creeping along in the background, and increasingly the software companies, the tech companies, I've mentioned Intuit, they are building AI into their software. I would guess every tech company is building AI right now. And so we are going to start to see that more and more over the next year or so.
So it's not significantly changing the accounting profession thus far. You're talking about impending impact.
Yes, I'm predicting in the next 3 years, we're going to see some big changes.
So let's talk about the average accountant, if there is such a thing. They are doing a great job. They've got a very elegant business model, monthly recurring fees. It's a service that's mandated by law. They only really change, if I'm being cynical a little bit, to mandated legal and tax regulations. You know that world extremely well. So if AI and ChatGPT are going to impact accounting, what are the areas it's going to do? I'm thinking of one I've heard recently that ChatGPT passed the CPA qualification with a 95% score. So as you say, it's quite a rule-based. It's very much based on data. That's the home of ChatGPT. So talk to us about where some of the significant changes will appear.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT is my favorite tool, and they recently brought out 4.0, which stands for omnimodal. And that was a huge step up in its abilities. It's extraordinary. I'm still gobsmacked sometimes with some of the things it's doing, the speed at which it's working.
That's omnimodal, Mark.
It means that so originally large language models was more just natural language. We would ask it a question, it would come and do something. But then over the course of the last 12 months, OpenAI have been introducing the ability to use, for example, vision, where you can feed it an image and it can interpret that, where it can speak to you and it can understand what you're saying. It's using all the senses effectively. And 4.0, when they launched that in May, that automatically built in, even for the free users, everybody then has access to not just being able to type something in, but with their smartphone, they can speak to it. They can hear, it can create images, it can understand images. And all of this different functionality just opens up the possibilities of how we can use it in extraordinary ways. For example, I remember when they first brought out Vision originally, which was at the back end of the summer last year in 2023. And I thought it was extraordinary, but I think a lot of people in the profession thought, well, there's no use cases in the profession, but actually there are. If, for example, you're an accountant and you're using some software to create, for example, a dashboard for a client, you've got some graphs, some charts, and so on. You can take a screenshot of that. You can feed that to ChatGPT and you can ask a question, and it's amazing how it understands what that picture is saying and can interpret it, which is great if you have a meeting with a client and you're not quite sure how to interpret the data and you want a second opinion. You can just get ChatGPT to give you some feedback to interpret the charts, the graphs, the pictures, and then give you some things to talk about with the client.
So there's significant changes afoot. The software vendors, the tech suppliers, they are already onto this. I do hear cynically that they're claiming to have AI capability, but it's just some element of automation. So how are they driving things forward?
I think it depends on the software company. They're all different. And yeah, as you said, some of them are doing it properly. So Intuit are definitely investing very heavily in AI. For example, I heard Sazan Gadazi when he was talking about Intuit Assist. They started that project in 2019, which I remember because I was a guest of Intuit on their VIP program out in San Jose when they did QB Connect. And I remember them showing a video of how they saw the future of what QBO would do. And I remember my jaw kind of dropped when I watched it and thought, wow, is that really, really possible? And 5 years on, that's exactly what they are doing. They spent 5 years developing in investment in data. And a lot of AI is all about data. Data is where the power is. Data is where the money is. I heard Sazan talking about the fact that QBO have 100 million customers around the world. And for each customer, they've been collecting data. They have 500 million data points per customer. Well, you multiply those two numbers together and you've got a lot of data in that company, which they spent 5 years developing how they're going to use it. And so with that much data and with the way that AI is so powerful at being able to analyze huge amounts of data, it's not surprising in my mind that in the not too distant future, and he said it's going to be Intuit Assist means everything done for you. And so your bookkeeping done for you. The AI is going to do it because it's got all this data and it's learning so incredibly fast at the moment. So yes, coming back to the question, some of the big companies like Intuit are seriously investing big time. And that is going to have an impact on us, the accounting firm.
If we look at the landscape of tech and we know how that drives innovation, clients also drive innovation as they demand more and more from their accounting advisors. Talk to us about some of the specific tools and developments that accounting firms should be aware of that are coming at us, Mark.
I certainly think that there are things that the profession needs to be doing to prepare for these things coming. I did say controversially, Rob, that I see that bookkeeping being dead in 3 years' time. That was me being overly controversial because I don't think it will be dead. It won't be dead because even when the technology does it all for us, which it will, the client initially won't know that. I mean, it's a bit like, we know that in the UK we have Making Tax Digital. It means that you have to use software to do your tax return. There's software that does the tax return for you. In theory, business owners could do it themselves, but they still go to the accountant to do it. So there is still going to be a role for compliance work, but it's going to be in a different world. And a lot of the AI tools will be in the tools that accountants are already using, or as we said, all the tech companies are investing in AI. So that's coming in the tools that we're using. But in addition to that, as a profession, we need to be embracing the other AI tools, the large language models, the tools like ChatGPT, because one of the things I'm seeing, and this is what got me fascinated by it when I first came across it early 2023, is this is a tool that can save us hours and hours of time every week. Productivity goes through the roof when we use it properly. And there are so many things that we can use it for in the accounting profession. We can use these tools to do much of the stuff that used to take us a long time, particularly for the owners of accounting firms. in things like the way that we market our accounting firms. ChatGPT can make that so much easier. I think my favorite use case for an accounting firm is using it for business advisory. Business advisory, creating value for clients, has never been easier than it is right now, using AI to help us deliver strategic insights to clients. We can use these tools to help us with creating standard operating procedures. We can use these tools to answer our emails for us. The number of accountants I speak to that tell me their inbox every day has 500 emails sat there ready to deal with, and they need to find some way of dealing with that. Well, AI can play a big role in dealing with that issue.
How are accountants positioned to handle the changes coming at them, Mark? We know they change slowly by and large, but there are some very agile early adopters. You're one of them, and the community that you run, they're full of people on the bleeding edge. But generally, they've done things in a certain way for so many years that has worked. They're fairly resistant to change because it works. But if they are going to adopt new technologies, they're going to have a whole new mindset, a whole new way of being, a whole new approach.
Absolutely, yes. We are slow to change in the profession, but also the thing in our favor is accountants are bright people. They're pretty intelligent, and so I think there's a number of strategies that there's three things that we should be doing when it comes to thinking about the future of our firms, and one of those is we do need to embrace this. We need to embrace AI. That's the first thing that we need to do. And one of the things that I find interesting is yes, there are some firms that are at the leading edge, and firms that I work with getting some amazing results, doing things inside, for example, ChatGPT. And yet when I do webinars and do surveys, when I teach people ChatGPT and I do surveys, I ask the question, to what extent are you using it? And I find that every time I run a webinar, somewhere around about 60 to 70% say they haven't got an account yet, which I find extraordinary. And of most of the rest, they are just playing with it. So in the main, the profession's very behind, but those that are using it are getting great results from it. So the first thing we have to do is we have to embrace the technology. We have to start using it. And I think the number one tip I can give regarding large language models is just start using them. Just start playing around with them. And because at first it kind of, well, what do you do with it? You go into ChatGPT for the first time and it gives you a suggested prompt like overcome procrastination, a message to comfort a friend. And you're thinking, where do I start? Why do I want to do those sorts of things? But the more you use it, the more you start to realize the things that it's particularly good at, the things that we can use it for in our day-to-day working lives to save us huge amounts of time. And I use it every day. It's my go-to place. I don't go to Google anymore. I go to ChatGPT when I want the answer to something, because it just comes up with better answers. It comes up with answers so fast. And pretty much every task I want to do in my business, it can do it faster than me. So we have to embrace the tech. We have to embrace the AI and just start using it, start getting on this road, on this journey. Number two, the second thing we have to do goes back to what I said earlier, Rob. We have to figure out new ways to create value for our clients. We have to create more value because the AI will start doing more and more of what we've done traditionally. We'll start doing more and more compliance work much faster than we can do it. And so we have to create more value for clients. One of those, for example, could be, obviously, tax planning is something where there's still huge opportunities for us to deliver huge value. But another one's business advisory. I'm a big fan of business advisory. And the tech makes it easier to do advisory than ever before. And another thing that we can do is, as we start to understand the tech, is we can deliver advice to our clients on how they can streamline their business using tech, using tools like ChatGPT to help them in their bit. So we can become consultants in tech and ChatGPT. The more that we integrate it in our own practice, the more we'll build up the skills to create value for our clients. That's number two. So number one is we have to embrace the tech. Number two, we have to find ways to create more value for our clients, more so than ever before. And number three, and this perhaps won't surprise you, Rob, but I believe that we have to, come from me, of course, is we have to embrace value pricing more than ever before. Because the reason for that is, if we're pricing based on the hour, then whenever we start to develop something internally or a tool comes along that means that we do something faster, what happens is most accounting firms pricing based on the hour start charging less. And I said earlier that bookkeeping will be dead. It won't be dead. We'll still do an element of bookkeeping. Clients will come to us, but what we will do is we will massively undercharge because the tools like Intuit are actually doing all the work and we're just pressing a button. And if you want, I can give you a practical example of that, of something that's happened in the past, where I can demonstrate that we start charging zero for things that we used to charge for. So if I go back to when I started in the profession, 1988, I went to work for a large 8-partner multi-firm. In the UK, all limited companies can file what's called abbreviated accounts under, small companies, which is actually most companies. In other words, most companies don't have to put on public record their profit and loss account, for example. They can keep that private because they can file abbreviated financial statements. Now, back in 1988, the way that in the 8-partner firm I grew up in is they didn't have computers back then. Believe it or not, no computers. They had a word processing department. And so the way that accounts were prepared was the accountant would create what's called an extended trial balance. And then me, the junior, one of my jobs was to go and take last year's accounts, use Tipex to Tipex the numbers out, get it photocopied, and then take the manual trial balance and manually write the numbers in and take it down to the word processing department. And then when they were word processed, I would team up with another junior to do what was called calling over. So one of us would take the handwritten set of numbers on the accounts and the other one had the word process set, and one would read over the numbers to the other to make sure they'd been correctly typed. Crazy as it seems, that was 1988, 1989, 1990. And when it came to preparing abbreviated financial statements, it was the same manual process. So the firm I worked for, the 8-partner multi-partner firm, every time they raised an invoice to a corporate client, there was an extra line item on the bill that said preparation of abbreviated financial statements, £400, about $600. And then fast forward 5-10 years, all accounting firms were using software to create annual financial statements. And all software had, when it did the financial statements, would have a button that says abbreviated financial statements. You would click that button and in less than a second, there would be the abbreviated. And in 2005, I did the first of many benchmarking studies where I asked accounting firms, how much do you charge for doing abbreviated financial statements? And with no exceptions, it was zero. Nobody charged for it anymore. Nobody charged. And here's the question, Rob. So abbreviated financial statements allow a company to file less information on public record, keep their profit and loss secret. So to what extent between 1988 and 2005 did the value to the customer change? It didn't change. It didn't change. So why were we charging £400 in 1988 and charging zero in 2005 when the value was just the same? With inflation, we should be charging more, but we were giving it away for free because the technology allowed us just to press a button. So if we fast forward 3 or 4 years and the likes of Intuit QBO will have a button that says, here's the bookkeeping done. What we're going to do if we're pricing based on the hour, which is most accounting firms, is we're going to be giving it away for free.
Goodness, there's so many questions that come out of that, but we're going to visit that and the impacts of this in future episodes. But for now, Mark, just wrap this up. We've talked here about the future trends that are emerging and how AI and ChatGPT are starting to impact the accounting profession. There's no escaping it, is there? Just summarize for us why accountants should be getting into this sooner rather than later.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt, Rob, the world is changing. It's changing fast. And so we have to adapt, and we will adapt. The great thing is, as human beings, we do adapt. We evolve and adapt fairly quickly. In fact, I was listening to somebody who said that this is just an illustration of how quick we adapt. When ChatGPT first came out, it was, wow, this is amazing. It can do all these things. 18 months later, we tend to say, why is it so flipping slow today? We do adapt. That's the good news. And we will adapt. It's just that some firms will adapt faster than others. We'll start to embrace it more. We'll start to think about these issues more. They're the firms that will get ahead, and other firms will get left behind, and we'll probably start seeing their profits squeezed. They find it hard to find the right clients now and get it because the best clients will go to the best firms. So we're going to start to see, I think, a shift in the profession of some firms, and probably the younger firms that are hungry for this. And I see this now. Some of the switched on younger firms are doing some incredible things in their accounting firms, whereas some of the older ones, shall we say, would prefer to stay in the past.
Exciting times, but challenging times. Mark Wickersham will put details to your community in our show notes. Thanks so much for sharing with us what's going on in AI in the accounting world. And we look forward to the next episode where we're going to look at the skill of prompt engineering and how that is shaping the accounting profession. Thank you so much.
Thank you.